We are live. It's time for a brand new week in the wrestling world. And one of the big talking points in WWE fandom right now is, should Sami Zayn be in the main event of WrestleMania 39 Goes Hollywood? Now, this actually kind of opens up a few ideas, really. Maybe what main event are we talking about? We're talking about night one? Are we talking about night two? Do we make it a triple threat? Does Sami get involved in Roman's match against Cody Rhodes? There's a number of different topics we'd like to discuss and more here today. But before I go into that, I'd just like to remind you that if you're a first time watcher here, then make sure to hit the subscribe button, like the video as well if you're enjoying it, share it with a friend as well, and get your questions in nice and early. This is a Q&A after all, and myself and my guest will be answering your questions after about 10 minutes into the stream. But without further ado, it's the first time having her on the channel in a Q&A format. She's done a few collaborations on the channel as well in previous times, but she's got her own YouTube channel as well called Elite Showcase. She has a weekly podcast as well as doing a great little series called Inside the Mind of, which of course I had the privilege of being on earlier this month. It is none other than Katie Kenzie Baby. Katie, how are you doing? And welcome to SCW.
Thank you for having me. I'm doing great. Again, thanks so much for inviting me on for this. I'm excited.
Yeah, it's well. I mean, had the luxury of being on your channel just a few weeks ago, and I mean, it's great to be able to return the favor to have you here. But for those that are not aware of Elite Showcase, could you just tell everyone a little bit about your channel, just so they know where to check you out and find you?
Yeah, so Sheely Showcase is my wrestling podcast. It is the channel, it is the brand, it is the name of the weekly show I do with my co-host Savannah. It's not necessarily a recap, it's more so just like news and rumors. I always do it today in women's wrestling history. We always have like picks of the week, and then I always come up with some type of question. Usually relating to something that's happening. Like this week's will be about Revolution because that's on Sunday. You mentioned Inside the Mind of, my interview series I do. It's with people in the wrestling community. It's mainly been podcasters. So I'm trying to expand on that. That gets dropped every 2 weeks. And there is so much on that channel between me and my co-host has 2 shows. Everything is up on the YouTube channel. And yeah, there's a lot over there.
And I can highly recommend it as well. Like you say, there's so much to go and check out. And I've put the link to your channel in the description of this video, so people can go and just click on the Elite Showcase and then just hit the subscribe button, and you've got some great content to go and check out, including, like I say, I was on there a few weeks ago for Inside the Mind of, which, let's be fair, we agreed at the time was a very dangerous place to go, but certainly I managed to answer your questions, which was a good thing. But we've got a chat rate coming in already, so just quickly just say hello to everybody. Jonesy, Chat Wrestling in the house. Evening, Jonesy. Hope you're doing well. Thank you for tuning in. He's got a couple of questions as well for us that we'll be checking out very shortly. We've got Rick Joe as well in house. Rick, thank you for coming in as well, joining us here today. And for everyone else that's watching right now that's not put a comment in, thank you so much for checking out the channel. But just quickly before we go into the questions, because Jonesy, thank you for your ones so far. The big talking point, the big topic that I wanted just to bring up today then was Sami Zayn. Obviously, we've just come out of the Elimination Chamber. He lost against Roman Reigns. We've had a 9-month storyline with him. It feels like it will continue to WrestleMania. Eventually, we seem we're going to get that reunion with him and Kevin Owens, perhaps against the Usos. That seems to be the most likely direction. But for a lot of people, we've seemed to have noticed there are still a lot of Sami chants. There is a minor section, I'll say a minor section, that are seemingly perhaps not even as popular with Cody since Sami has lost. Do we feel that Sami Zayn deserves a place in the main event of WrestleMania? And as I say, it could be a triple threat for night 2. It could be just interfering in night 2's main event. I want to give a shout out to Tom Colley, who suggests that on his channel. Or we could even give him the main event to night 1. But of course, if we do that, that probably takes away Rhea Ripley and Charlotte Flair. How do you stand? Because it's a topic for me that I go backwards and forwards on almost on a daily basis.
Yeah, Sami is definitely one of the hottest topics in wrestling right now in regards to everything with the bloodline, where it stands with his WrestleMania thing. Part of me thinks it would be awesome if Sami Zayn did have a main event spot, but he could very well get that next year because of everything that's going on with Cody. I definitely don't think he should interfere in the Cody Roman match. I think that would kind of just like convolute and water down everything because they do have 2 very different stories going on. Yes, there was the interaction between Cody and Sami on Raw a few weeks ago, which was awesome. and just fueled the fire for Sami. But everything they're doing with Sami right now and him trying to get back with KO and where does Jay lie with all of this? It's part of me would love that. But then, like you said, it takes away Rhea and Charlotte, which I've always said, if you win the Rumble, you get the main event. It's only fair. And like Bianca and Asuka could definitely co-main event night too. And that would be fantastic. Like 2 fantastic matches back to back would be a great way to end WrestleMania. So I don't think Sami will get a main event this year.
Interesting this year, because I mean, one of Jones's first questions that's come in was, could Sami Zayn headline WrestleMania next year in Philadelphia against Roman Reigns, with the storyline with the bloodline stretching all the way until then? Could you see perhaps the bloodline storyline stretching another full calendar year and Sami getting his moment then?
Maybe not even against the bloodline. It very well could be, you could have Cody hold the title a whole calendar year. And then you could get Cody and Sami at Mania in Philly, which I'll be there. So like, I'll kind of be like really okay with that. But I keep hearing things that like Roman might be taking some time off after Mania, which he's definitely earned these past 3 years. So it very well could. It could be another, main event. Jey Uso could rise up the ranks and we could get Jay versus Sami. It's very possible, but I think it might not be Roman. It would, if anything, it'd be Cody and Sami, is my guess.
It's interesting because, like you said, there's so many different layers to this story and so many different directions it can twist and turn. If they wanted to drag this out another full calendar year, I'm sure WWE would find a way to do so. But obviously, not to be a poet, but I agree with you. I think someone like a Jey Uso would be quite interesting if Jey rises the ranks, because in my belief, I think that eventually when the Bloodline lose those championships, I do think that Jey Uso is going to be similar to taking Sami's advice and saying you found a way out. Jimmy was told the same thing last week on SmackDown. I think they're going to take that way out once they lose all the gold, because they'll see Roman as the reason for it. Roman is the reason for the cracks of where it's split. Obviously, Sami had to be dealt with, which at the time he would be. That could lead to the bloodline imploding. Roman taking his time off, like you say. Perhaps maybe the bloodline, the other members take him out, takes him back to a SummerSlam. Maybe we get Jey versus Roman at SummerSlam, and then we can start building towards what it could be for WrestleMania. Can you imagine that story going full circle as well? Perhaps Jey Uso defeating Roman Reigns at that moment, almost solidify himself for a short period as the new head of the table.
That'd be so cool to, because if you think all the way back, Jey is the first person to give Roman a loss on the main roster. So it goes back that far. And then Jey defying Roman, and we get those classic matches during the pandemic era. I've always been, Jey Uso can definitely be that guy to take out Roman if necessary. It's just this story, like you said, and we keep saying, has so many layers to it. Like, where does Solo lie in all of this? Does he go with his brothers? Does he go with Roman? There's too many. It hurts my brain.
There is a lot of layers to this story, and that's what makes it fascinating. To give my answer on it, I would not be against Sami Zayn getting a main event of WrestleMania. I think the storyline that he's had the last sort of calendar year, the way he's organically got over, I do kind of think he deserves that moment. But like you said there, we don't want to kind of devalue the Royal Rumble. And obviously last year, it was supposed to be Ronda and Charlotte that main evented. In the end, we had Steve Austin and Kevin Owens main eventing night one. So technically, great for those guys, especially KO, to get a main event of WrestleMania. But the women didn't get that opportunity. So it would be nice to see one night for each. And I suppose that even a semi-main event spot is still really cool. And it's still a really good moment. WrestleMania will feel that culmination of a story. Sami will get his moment, I believe, whether it's now or later, because I think fans are too far invested. And I mean, the other thing, the other question, which I'll quickly go to in a couple of seconds. I first off want to just say hello to Ghost Rider or Ghost Spider to 2003. Thank you for tuning in. And also to Noob and Co saying that he believes Sami will be in a tag team with KO to deal with Jimmy and Jay for the tag titles. I kind of agree with you on that point, by the way, Noob. And Tino's time as well in house. Thank you, Tina, for checking out. When you look at things here, Sami, like I said, he's got that opportunity to make something further down the line. There is this worry backstage, though, is do we have a Sami problem, arguably, because Cody last week was slightly getting booed in places. Are fans going to struggle with the transition from Sami to Cody? I think the storytelling so far with Cody has actually been fine. I think it's been brilliant with the Paul Heyman stuff. I mean, like you said, the Sami Zayn one. Last week we had another one with Paul Heyman again. We're still kind of dragging out when we get Cody and Roman face to face, which I think is quite an exciting prospect. But do you think there is a chance that perhaps fans that wanted the Sami to be the one could turn on Cody, and this could effectively ruin Cody's moment should he win at WrestleMania?
So something I have realized being in this space the past like 2-3 years, you can't please everybody.
True.
Fans are going to be upset with Sami not being in the main event, which they're allowed. Everyone's entitled to their own opinions, but they also shouldn't direct hate towards Cody Rhodes, who did earn this main event. He did win the Rumble. Cody's pop when he returned. Everyone sings Cody's music when he comes out, which it's a great song, I will say. It's on my Spotify playlist. Like, it's a good pump-up song. But there's always going to be the fans who are going to boycott and riot and whatever you want to say about it because Sami's not there. I think, again, rightfully so. You're allowed to be upset about that. Everyone in Montreal was silent when Sami lost, and that's rare when you just hear silence from the crowd. I have people who were there, and they said it was the weirdest moment ever because not a single person was like, they were like afraid to say something. So, again, it's gonna be this thing where, yeah, Cody will probably get some boos here and there because people are upset it's not their guy. Like, we kind of turned the tides with WrestleMania with Daniel Bryan, but we can't do it every time, and sometimes things have to go another way, and we just got to deal with it. It's still going to be exciting regardless. Like the Paul Heyman stuff, Paul basically saying he's going to screw Brandy, that took a turn I was not expecting. But like you said, it's leading up to the face-off we will finally get between Cody and Roman, and I love that it's just Paul talking for him right now.
Absolutely, and dare we say it, Paul is getting extreme, pun intended. Yeah, I mean it's fascinating stuff, and I'm looking forward to the story. I think a lot of what you said there was actually quite sensible with the idea of like you can't always get your way, and we have to be, fans have to be patient sometimes with certain things. There's only so many spots. There's not 2 world titles to go for right now. There's only one. And Cody's story, to do it for Dusty, that is a WrestleMania thing. Dusty's a legend. We'll love Dusty. So, son of a plumber and all that stuff. We want to see that come out at WrestleMania. So it's a very special feeling. And Sami's moment can come. Maybe Money in the Bank. Maybe next year's Royal Rumble. Maybe King of the Ring. There's rumors that could be coming as a POE later this year. So there's lots of different fascinating ways that this can twist and turn between now and then. There could be 2 world titles between now and then as well. And that brings a lot of other people back into the fold. So it's really fascinating. I want to know people's feelings in the comments below, particularly as well. Night 1's WrestleMania main event, should it be Rhea versus Charlotte, or should it be Sami and KO versus the Usos? I just want people's opinions on it because I go back and forth non-stop in it. I don't think I'd argue either way, just purely because I want the Rumble winner to be there. I think Rhea, is going to destroy Charlotte Flair anyway. I think she's going to have a real crowning moment at WrestleMania. But for Sami's storyline as well, I think it would be a beautiful combination as well to see him in that spot and just to defeat the Usos as well, because that story, that's where it started. If it's where it ends, I think it will be beautiful. But is there anything you'd like to say else on this topic before we go into the comments?
Just briefly on that, I think what they could do is night 1 have the tag titles Co, and then Rhea and Charlotte main, and then night 2 kind of just flip it, have Bianca, Asuka, Co, and Roman, Cody main. Because there's been the whole thing of, if you're on WrestleMania, it's a main event, which is not necessarily true in any way, shape, or form. But I feel like if you do it like that, you're giving all the people who have busted their ass in these storylines their rightful dues. Because you're still keeping the Rumble winners as the main event, which is how it should be. It's how it's been for a while, excluding the few times. And you know me, I'm always just going to push for the women in main event regardless.
Well, I mean, the thing is that there is that, but obviously, I know you're a big Rhea Ripley fan as well. So
Love Rhea
I know
Ripley.
that for her to have that moment, if there's someone outside of Sami Zayn who's had an incredible 12 months rebuilding themselves and push themselves where they deserve, the head and shoulders above the rest in their respective sort of division and getting over so organically, Rhea Ripley is one of them. In Judgment Day, she's been absolutely amazing into that role. She's
Mhm.
almost been like the leader. She's taken out the men. Jesus, people like the Good Brothers think they can just go over and sweet talk to get a kick in the balls or body slam for their trouble, And I mean, it's been the same. Akira Tozawa lost the match as well against her. She dominated Royal Rumble from 1 to 30. All right, Liv was there with her, but Rhea was the one that won. I mean, just for me, even with the Dominic Mysterio storyline, everything with Rhea Ripley, from character work to in-ring work to just the presentation of her on screen, she is that other one that deserves that major spot.
You don't gotta tell me twice, Steve. That's my girl. I love Rhea Ripley. I have said on a few podcasts, if Rhea loses to Charlotte, I'm unleashing all types of hell on everywhere, because that is not going to be okay. We got to right this wrong from a few years ago.
I think we probably do. I mean, we've had one feud in between, and that really didn't go to plan. But this one for me, especially with Rhea, it feels like whatever happens, if Rhea wins, I think it's going to come out okay. But we're going to go into our chat then, because a lot of comments are coming flying in. Jones's questions from the start we want to take in as well. So we will sort of go up and down the chat for those that are just coming into us now. And thank you all for tuning in. Tino Slam says, I think the Usos versus KO and Sami main event in night one would be just fine. I think it would be, but as you said, there's a good argument there for Rhea Ripley to have that potential as well. Ghost Spider 2003 saying, after the Bloodline lose all their titles at WrestleMania 39, I can see the Usos and Solo turn there on Roman Reigns. It seems like all of them to stick together. And I think that would make the most sense as well. I'll be honest, it was in my fantasy booking video. I thought all would stick together also. Jones, we have another question that was higher up there, although I will just quickly go as well to say hello to Richard Groves, who's coming to us as well. Face-off confirmed, then Roman Spears Cody, and a Cody kip up. We'll have to wait and see when that face-off is confirmed, Richard, but I like your idea. It seems really fun. Jones then saying, would Sami's turn have been better off with a tweak where the Bloodline turned on him instead? Interesting question, obviously, coming from the Royal Rumble. How would you stand this? What if the Bloodline have turned on Sami? Obviously, we would have got the heartache of Sami, the realization sort of babyface, the Shawn Michaels kind of telling of the story, if you want, because no one can tell a story facially like Shawn Michaels. Sami's kind of got that way as well. But I did like the way that it played out in the end, because it was different to what I think I expected, and I think it played out better.
Yeah, I think everybody expected the Bloodline to turn on Sami. Like, the amount of like Goodfellas gifts and things I saw where they were like plastering the faces of the Bloodline and Sami. I expected the Bloodline to just basically, after Sami turned, that's what I expected them to just do to Sami in general. Sami turning and getting that pop is just gonna be one of those moments, because like I just talked about this the other day. Wrestling is just about moments for me. Like, we got, and Kofi Kingston even mentioned on SmackDown, he won the WWE World Heavyweight Championship. And LA Knight brought up, well, how'd that go for you? And Kofi's like, well, I won the title. And that's all that matters. What happens after happened, are we okay with it? Hell no. He got squashed by Brock. Then that was just a whole other thing. But that Sami turning on the Bloodline was a moment. Also, Roman Reigns should just really stop turning his back on people with chairs.
So true. He's very trusting when he's in a group, isn't he? That no one's going to do it to him. He's had it with Seth Freaking Rollins previously, so that was a great shout there. Roman, maybe just watch your back, because I think after WrestleMania it could happen anyway again. I totally agree with everything you say there, and it is all about moments. And Kofi's a fine example there, and very topical as well there. Speaking of topical, one of other Jones's questions was, how much influence does Vince McMahon have on WWE booking these days? My answer is hopefully not a lot. We go to mention with the idea of Cody, if fans would turn on him, I worry if Vince McMahon was to get on the script again and keep changing things every 5 minutes before the show, like he usually did towards the end. That could be something that could actually harm Cody's booking, because Cody right now has got a good thing. It feels like a lot of it's organic. It feels it's coming from the heart. If you've got a script that you've got to follow that's ripped up 5 minutes before going on air, that's the sort of thing that could harm a Cody Rhodes babyface push.
Yeah, definitely. And I'm kind of with you. I'm hoping it's very little, if not any. Vince is always going to have his grubby old fingers in everything anyways, until something happens. So we can't really do anything about that. But I don't think much these past like few months, ever since Triple H took up the helm. You again, you see bits and pieces of old Vince booking here and there, which that's fine. We all lived with it forever. How long? Like, it's something we'll be stuck with, sadly, for a while. But I think it's mainly just Triple H's show, and Vince is gonna come in every once in a while. Again, grubby old hands trying to start touch things, and then he just gets shooed away. So I think very minimal.
I just keep thinking the grubby hands part, but where's the sanitizer where you need it? Do you know what I mean? Like it's
Honestly.
that's what we need at this point. But I am with you. I hope it's minimal, Jonesy. But I know Jonesy's thoughts on this. He thinks that it's more than minimal at this point. But we can only see through storylines that we see on a weekly basis from WWE, particularly one actually that's a bit topical for this evening. Which just before we go into our next question, I will ask you: Brock versus Omos. Do you think it's happening, or do you think that this is a ploy to get Brock versus Bobby Lashley and we've got a return of the Hurt Business?
See, I'm I don't know. Because I feel like if we get Bobby and Bray, we still can have that possibility of the Hurt Business reuniting and maybe some more Wyatt Six members coming out to help Bray. We already have Uncle Howdy. I think Uncle Harper was like mentioned once, but there's still like so many different things you can do with that, because I'm very much like, I love Bray Wyatt. I love the spooky stuff. Everything with like Dark Alexa, I was okay. Like, I'm one of those people where I'm okay with it because it's the entertainment thing, and that's the type of person I am. But Brock and Omos, I have mixed feelings about, because yes, you are utilizing Omos as this giant man and a spectacle, if you will.
Yes.
And that, again, that would be a moment at WrestleMania. You're having Cowboy Brock, who is my favorite iteration of Brock Lesnar, doing something, and you're having Omos do something, get utilized, because he's not really in matches right now. They're kind of saving him for these bigger moments, which I think they should have just been doing from the beginning. So I think it's probably, like, it's going to be Brock, Omos, Bobby, Bray at Mania.
I mean, I'd be open for that idea, really. I mean, if of doing it, if they do it right. I mean, obviously, I'll go back to Crown Jewel. Almost actually surprised with the match against Braun Strowman. Actually, was a lot better than I expected. And here's the one thing I will say positive about it, because although it's not the match I want at WrestleMania, do I want one of my favorite wrestlers at WrestleMania getting a 5-minute match with Brock Lesnar? He doesn't tend to do 20-minute matches anymore. So almost is the limitation to him of what he do is probably a good 4 or 5-minute match, like you say, moment F5 done to this big giant, or almost wins, and my goodness, you've put him on a different level altogether. I mean, there's you can't really go wrong in a way with it. So I'm interested to see how it's going to go with all of that. But certainly it's a fascinating topic. I'm going to jump in a couple of questions, because Jonesy did ask this one about Bray Wyatt, because obviously you said that you were into the Bray Wyatt stuff previously. What about Bray Wyatt? Are we sitting for another 3 months of pointless interviews and vignettes so we can introduce another person to his group? Jonesy feels it's worse than the Glacier pre-debut in WCW. What's your take then on Bray Wyatt since the return in Extreme Rules? Have you been into the storyline? Has it been okay with the pacing for you, or do you find it's been a bit slow?
So Bray has always been very much a storyteller outside of the ring. Yeah. That's if you look at like Eater of Worlds Bray, and then The Fiend, it's always been very much a story build with the vignettes, the Firefly Funhouse, which I will always love because it's just entertainment and corny. Especially this one on Friday had me laughing because it was just a cluster and it was great. I don't necessarily think it's like pointless interviews and everything like that. It's very much just the build. It is the same. I was okay with the build with LA Knight. Yeah, the match wasn't everything we expected it to be, but what it led to was that moment at the end with Uncle Howdy jumping off and the rest of the people sitting up at the top, the rest of the Wyatt Six or whatever. So I don't necessarily think it's going to be pointless. I'm invested because, again, I'm thinking, well, Bobby can just beat the absolute shit out of Bray if he wants to, but Bray can, use the supernatural stuff that he has to his advantage. Like, we got him and John Cena in a Firefly Funhouse match, which was so fun to watch. So, and I know it's not for everybody. It's not everyone's cup of tea. Everyone wants quick things to happen. They don't like pointless stuff, and that's fine. It's everyone has their own take on everything, and not everyone's going to agree. It's the same thing I said with Sami and Cody earlier. People are going to be upset no matter what they do in wrestling.
Yeah, absolutely. And I mean, Jonesy knows my feelings on about the Bray Wyatt stuff. Obviously, I found it a bit of a slower pace as well. For me, would prefer a bit more of the continuity of the story. I think for me is I'm not seeing what the ultimate goal is of Bray Wyatt's return. And I think that for me, once I see that, maybe some of the dots will connect and I'll go, oh, okay. And I have to go back and see what I've missed for it to come together.
Yeah.
And for me, I'm hoping that it takes place. But like you said, everybody takes different things out of their pro wrestling. I know Jonesy, for example, is into the sort of the characters that like the Undertaker's, the Mankind's back in the old school days. A Bray Wyatt character certainly would be his cup of tea these days. So I think there's more disappointment on his side. But for myself personally, that's not my top thing out of sports entertainment. Like you said, that I perhaps look for different things when I'm going for it. So like you said, it comes down to the individual there. And I think hopefully Jonesy and actually for Tom as well, he says that Bray just hasn't been interested for a while now. In 4 months, he's just moving backwards for me. And that's fair. I think that's fair. That's pretty much, just to say, by the way, Tom will be live on his channel from 10 p.m. today. Spoiler warning, always fantastic stuff. And I believe we're talking about contracts today. I've seen that Kenny Omega and Alexa Bliss is on the thumbnail. So interesting stuff there. People do go and give that a check out. If I can, I'll link it at the end of this video. Yeah, I mean, like you say, it's to everybody's taste of whether certain things work or don't. You mentioned about Sami and Cody. John, thank you for tuning in. So Sami is not a main eventer. Case closed for John there. I don't think there's any convincing him at this point. But John, I appreciate your comment nonetheless. Kate House says, what's going on, everyone? Thank you, Kate for checking us out. And Jones is just giving his take on this as well. He said, I'm up for a slow build. It's just when nothing gets explained. Prime example, why did Uncle Howdy attack Bray? Next week, it's like they're best friends again. And that's an interesting point of it as well there. And I've got a couple more comments that are going on this, so I'll just bring them all up together in one. The show stuff like puppets and don't follow up on it, and he's still waiting for the white rabbit to be explained. So I think that's some of the things that he's looking for. I can feel I can answer a little bit to do with Bray and Uncle Howdy. That's the only one you're going to get from me, I'm afraid, on this lineup here. But I think that is more to do with the fact that, am I right in feeling that it could be a bit of an alter ego thing, that actually it's like, we know about this rumor about an Uncle Harper coming in at some point. Could it be a case of good cop, bad cop, and this is him more embracing his bad side, the fact that he did some evil things, he wanted to change, but instead he took that attack from Uncle Howdy, realized that if you can't beat them, you kind of join them and you go back to your old twisted ways.
That's definitely what it seems like. I mean, Uncle Howdy has consistently been like, you did bad things, you know what you did, kind of mainly hinting at everything he did as the Fiend. And that's like been like the whole, basically the Firefly Funhouse. It's so hard to say every time. Like this past week, it's very much just like, can you keep a secret? Who opened the door? All hinting back to when the Fiend was like debuting at the time. And so they're kind of like rehashing that. The Fiend could possibly come back as another alter ego. So very well just could be like Wyndham, the Bray we see, Uncle Howdy, could be a Fiend, could be Uncle Harper. It very much like a Mankind situation. Three faces of Foley. It could be that. I'm not saying it will be. I mean, Bo Dallas is 99% Uncle Howdy. If it's not, then we all have been swerved. Because it seems exactly like him. But it's just one of those things where I'm just going to wait and see, because it has me intrigued and it has me investigating. And like, I'm okay with like working for what I want out of this.
Yeah, absolutely. And, we have to wait and see what's going to come out of it. One thing you mentioned about the Firefly Funhouse as well this past week, there was a teaser, something, I believe, like a box to do with Alexa Bliss in the room as well, that a lot of fans picked up on. So I'm like, I'm wondering, because she's obviously been written off TV right now, and that's another plug for Tom with the contract situation with his stream later. When Alexa, if she does eventually come back or whatever, if she's a part of this White Six, maybe it may be draft season. She moves over the SmackDown, or Bray moves over the Raw with Howdy. Who knows at this point? It could be a situation that's where she finds a way back into this story. Because one thing that we can say with Bray Wyatt, I feel with a lot of his stories in WWE, I think we've had a conclusive finish with any of them to this point. So this could be a way of trying to hopefully tie things together, maybe to try and make sense of it all, to give a full conclusion. I don't know.
Well, I know with Mania, when Dark Alexa turned on Bray and the Fiend, we didn't get a conclusion because Bray Wyatt ended up getting fired.
Yeah.
Which was like a hit in the chest for me. I was like, oh, that's just rude. Like that, he was doing so good. But it made, like, after thinking about it, everything makes sense. So they kind of teased that here and there with Uncle Howdy and the like vignettes for Alexa, her being like hypnotized kind of thing. I definitely think if they continue that aspect, and if it is the Fiend, I need the Fiend to absolutely destroy Alexa Bliss, because he should not just openly welcome her back. She cost him a WrestleMania match against Randy Orton. Like, if they do it like that, that's continuity. That's fine with me. If they just allow Alexa to just, oh, come on in, join the party, I'm going to be a little upset about it. I need to be there's some type of conflict there.
I always thought that Alexa Bliss would be the target of Uncle Howdy and Wyatt at one point, but I didn't know how they were going to do it. Maybe a female member. At the time, I thought Nikki Cross would have been the one that would have been there, but she's doing her own thing on Raw, being crazy Nikki at this particular moment. So it's fascinating. It's really fascinating. Like you say, I want some continuity as well. I think for me, that would help me to get back into the story. Because for me, I'm not as invested in it at the moment as I'd like to be. Because Bray, like you said, he's one of the biggest names in WWE. He's a larger-than-life character. I actually respect what he said at the Royal Rumble press conference, where he said he wants to do something different. He wants to do something that people haven't seen before. And I respect that idea of trying to bring something new to the table, because in this sort of day and age when it comes to wrestling, it is hard to give us something brand new we haven't seen before. So, I mean, I guess a Mountain Dew pitch black match was something new. Wasn't everybody's cup of tea, but you got to try these things, haven't you? You know, we tried Hell in a Cell once, and then it's still going today. At one point, it was its own POE. So, and so was Money in the Bank. And speaking of Money in the Bank, let's go to a couple of other further questions here. Jones is saying Money in the Bank winner Gunter is written in the stars. I would love that personally. Was a definitely a name I had on the tip of my tongue. I feel it's going to be potentially a UK or a European winner, since that the show will be in, of course, in London. What are your thoughts with Money in the Bank as an early prediction, and the thoughts of it being in the UK?
With it being in the UK, that's awesome. I mean, they're finally starting to, no pun intended, bank on the fact that the UK pay-per-views PLEs have been doing really well. Clash at the Castle, Elimination Chamber of Montreal, like they're like stuff outside of the US, because there are other places you can go. I'm 100% okay with it being in the UK. That's going to be fantastic to watch. I mean, that's going to be like an early night for me, so like I'm okay with it. I'm always all right with. Yeah, I was gonna say I'm going to be so happy. It'd be like right now, and I'm 100% okay with that. An early night for me, but Gunther is definitely a name I have heard quite a bit, and I would 100% be okay with. We brought up Sami. Sami could be an option you utilize. It's kind of hard to think that far in advance. You could say, oh, have Austin Theory win it 2 times in a row, which, please, for the love of God, do not do that. Please. I was there when Theory won, and it was not a fun time. Yeah, it's kind of hard to think a few months out who could be like a top star in that, who would even be in the match.
It's true. Who would be in the match? And Ghost Spider 2003. What a fun suggestion. This is something I wouldn't have thought, but I think it's outside the box, but it could work. Injured currently, but what if he returned in time? AJ Styles winning Money in the Bank ladder match, turning heel on Cody Rhodes for the WWE Championship at SummerSlam. That's a match all of a sudden, out of thin air. Ghost Spider, you've made me feel I need to see.
Yeah, I mean, it definitely sucks. AJ's injury, terrible timing. Like, he's probably not going to be back for Mania at all, which is unfortunate. But AJ has had Mania moments and matches, so he has that at least. But yeah, he hasn't won Money. I'd kind of be okay with Alan winning Money in the Bank, and then we get a Bullet Club-ish reunion lead. People keep saying Cody is a leader of the Bullet Club, and I don't necessarily agree with that because everyone's talking about, leaders of the Bullet Club in WWE, Finn, AJ, Cody. I'm like, timeout. I don't think Cody necessarily was the leader. At that era, it was Kenny.
Yeah.
As much as I'm not the biggest Kenny guy, Kenny was the leader, and like I could sit here until I'm blue in the face and say Adam Cole was the leader of Bullet Club at one point. Not true, but in my heart it is. So, but having that, like, and the same thing with like Finn, even having AJ and Finn and Cody. Hell, give me a triple threat at SummerSlam: AJ Styles, Cody Rhodes, Finn Balor, WWE Championship.
Absolutely, I'd be down for that 100% then. Like you say, Ring of Honor Bullet Club leaders, as much as that was my favorite time of Ring of Honor when Cody was there, I thoroughly enjoyed that period, along with Adam Cole and the Bucks and even Marty Scurll at that particular point. But I would agree with you. The ones from New Japan are the real leaders of the group. But still, give me all of that and give me Jay White as well while you're at it. I think that would be a fantastic acquisition at this point. Noob & Co. TV says, do you think Asuka will win at WrestleMania 39? But what to Bianca Belair if she loses to Asuka? So big question here for you.
See, I've discussed this with my friends out of just curiosity. Bianca is on a tear. She is currently undefeated at WrestleManias. And Asuka, like Dark Asuka, has been so fun to watch since Rumble, coming back with the face paint and everything like that. I honestly, this is one of those situations where it's okay if either woman loses, in my opinion. I think it's one of those where both are made stars at this point blank period. They're two of the biggest names in WWE for the women, and then of course Rhea and Charlotte for the other side of that. It's just one of those things where, yeah, I'm always about the moments, like, so this match is going to be fantastic, but part of me is like, well, what do they do in the situation if Asuka wins, if Bianca loses? Like, it's so hard to tell. But like, if I ever bet, I'm not betting on that match.
It's hard to bet against Bianca at this point because she's been so unstoppable for a long time. But I think this is the match that she's been waiting for, and I think this could be the one that takes the championship away. I think Asuka, with this refreshed character, teases of heel turn potentially last week on Raw. I would hold off until WrestleMania itself and do the turn at Mania. I think that would shock a lot of people in attendance. I think it would give a real fresh feeling for the next night on Raw, a fresh division as well with a draft, maybe get one or two other names over. A heel Asuka then going against all these babyfaces could be working, and then Bianca could go over to SmackDown. That could be an idea for her at that point. So that's what I would look and perhaps see to do, but. I mean, like you say, it could go either way. And I know Noob is a huge Asuka fan, so I know that Noob will be rooting for Asuka. But as you said, you probably can't go wrong either way. And if a draft does come along, Bianca Belair will get new challengers as well because, I mean, well, she's almost beaten everyone who is to beat at Raw at this point.
Yeah, well, that's if they actually, like, utilize the brand split like they're supposed to.
That's true. That's a key point.
Yeah.
Going back to Money in the Bank, Balor seems an easy shout. Good shout as well, Tom. But I'd love to see a returning Big E. Big E would be amazing if he does. Hopefully this month we'll learn. Oh, next month. We're still in February at the minute. It's going so fast, though. It feels like March already. But March is when we're going to learn about Big E. But we mentioned about Bullet Club, guys. I mean, Balor would be another one, wouldn't he? The original leader of the Bullet Club. There's a lot of continuity with that.
I miss Big E so much. I love the New Day. Like, don't get me wrong, but it really is just like they are missing that key component in Big E. And I will always shout Xavier Woods' praises from the rooftops. He does not get the credit he deserves. People think his moveset is weak and like they go on and on about it, but I definitely want to see just Xavier Woods win a singles title this year. Personally, I think it's earned. And I really just want Big E back. And who knows, by then Big E versus Cody Rhodes for the World Heavyweight title.
book it. I'd be down for it. Biggie, if he could come back, and if healthy, of course, is the first and foremost with Biggie. That's all we wish for. But I mean, if he can come back in the capacity, I was fortunate to see him live when he was WWE champion, and I would like to see him get a redemption story because I don't think he got to maximize his potential as the top guy for his brand. So I think if he could come back and he could go for a big title again, that would be awesome. And obviously, when he won Money in the Bank 2021, I believe it was, the monster pop on that point, then he won it. Obviously, it was the first show back, first POE after the pandemic. Oh, I'd love to see that feeling because you know that it'd be that and then some with the crowd if Biggie was to do it again.
Oh, 100%. Biggie is loved by everybody.
Absolutely, he really, really is. Let's go back to a couple of Jones's comments then regarding Bray Wyatt. So we'll go back into the Wyatt area. Then we're going to get some new commenters in as well. Jones says, I think Bray's biggest trouble in ring is he's a horrible worker, should just be a manager, non-wrestler. What's your take on that? Obviously, we're speaking about the entertainment idea there. What do you think of Bray in ring work? Do you reckon that those stories are told well when he's in the ring? Or do you think that perhaps maybe he'd be better as just more of a mouthpiece and leading a Wyatt Six rather than actually wrestling on behalf of a Wyatt Six?
The idea of Bray not wrestling is weird to me because I don't think he's a horrible worker. Yeah, his matches have been known to not be super stellar, and that's fine. And it's more so the storytelling on that aspect. So him being like this leader of the Wyatt Six and having them kind of just do his bidding, I'd also be okay with that. Like that's something I can get behind. Again, part of me will, like, the Sister Abigail is such a cool move, and he does it flawlessly 9 times out of 10. And the creepy moments he can have in the ring with like him like bending backwards and just all that. But I understand why Bray isn't everyone's cup of tea because they think he is not the best worker. I've seen worse workers than Bray Wyatt. I'll just say that.
Oh yeah, there's definitely been a lot worse than Bray Wyatt in the ring. That's for sure. I would agree with that. And also, Jones says, I think the match with Autumn and the Fiend was the worst booking match finish. Totally summed up Bray's last run. Obviously, yeah, it did feel a bit weird when he'd had that sort of set on fire. Then this mummy version of the Fiend come back, and then obviously he come to WrestleMania fully ready to go, and then he lost in 5 minutes. It was a bizarre way to kick things off, especially for that WrestleMania. I would have much preferred Bray to have won that match, but as you said, then we had a moment with Alexa Bliss. We had a potential story. We just never got the conclusion of it. If we could get some form of conclusion for it, do you reckon it would make up for it, or do you reckon it's just it goes down now? It's too long ago. That was a mistake.
I mean, it was definitely a mistake. Let's be real. Let's call a spade a spade. That was a big mistake. At this point, I think it might be too far gone to try and salvage it, especially with Orton still being gone. We don't know necessarily when Randy's coming back, which again, that's another situation. Brandon needs to be 100% healthy. When he comes back, this might be his last run, depending on how his back is. Preserve Randy Orton for as long as possible. So I don't, and like that's a thing where I don't want him just thrown back into this with the Bray Alexa stuff. I don't know. I like I said, I think it's just too far gone at this point to go back to that.
Yeah, I would agree. It's too far gone. We want continuity, but Jonesy, we agree with you wholeheartedly. Ghost Spider 2003 says, we all know Gunther versus Brock Lesnar will not happen at WrestleMania 39. Have to, unfortunately, agree with you on that one because I believe they've announced there's going to be a battle royale at Madison Square Garden. The winner will get the opportunity at the IC title at WrestleMania. For me, I'm thinking, can we get a draw out of this so we can get Drew and Sheamus in there? I want the triple threat.
I would be 100% okay with the triple threat. Oh my! We talked about Big E. That is the definition of the soundbite: big meaty men slapping meat. That is that match, and they kind of teased Drew and Gunther on SmackDown, and I would just be okay with that. But you gotta just put Sheamus in there too. Why not? That'd be fun.
Absolutely. When would you think we get a Gunther versus Brock match there? Because we've been suggesting how about SummerSlam. We're not getting Clash at the Castle this year, I don't believe. I don't think we'll be treated twice to a POE in the UK, as much as I would love to bite your hand off and say, give us 2. I think we're grateful with the 1. But do you reckon SummerSlam could be a good possibility for that?
I mean, I know for sure it has to be one of the main 5. So I think SummerSlam could definitely be the time to do Gunther and Lesnar. I hope so, because I might be there too. So
For Katie, if you're watching WWE, just book it for Katie. It's the match she
for
wants.
me,
Okay,
please.
exactly.
Not a
That's.
lot.
Also, we've got Silk NXT in the house, regular on the channel. Be joining me as well for AEW Revolution predictions later this week. It says, "Evening, Steve and Katie." So, Kenny to WWE and Jay White. Steve told me we're getting the 4 former leaders of Bullet Club facing off at WrestleMania next year. I can only hope so, my friend. Just to say very quickly, though, Kenny Omega, his contract was supposed to be up around this point, but of course, due to that long lengthy injury he had, I believe it was Raj Giri that broke this on Twitter. If I do get it wrong with the source, then do apologize. But he did definitely put a tweet out about it, saying that it will be until he's done that time of when he was injured. So I believe that's 9 months on total. So I think we're looking at November time. But that leads to a fascinating point because the Young Bucks, I believe at the start of 2024, I first off believe that Kenny wouldn't go without the Bucks. But since all of the contracts will be up around the same time, could it happen?
Honestly, I do not think so. As much as people would want it, and some people are very much against it, the idea of the Elite going to WWE, let alone just Kenny, I honestly don't think it will happen. Kenny can still has the possibility to go back to Japan if he wanted to. I mean, he's still the IWGP US champion, I believe.
He is, yeah.
So he still has that under his belt. No pun intended. So I honestly don't think the Bucks or Kenny would go to WWE. They have their EVPs in AEW right now. They have Tony Khan took away a lot of their power after the brawl, but they do still have a lot of pull in AEW and working with New Japan. And I mean, Kenny was on Impact for a while, which that whole thing was terrible. Let's just briefly mention that because Impact got nothing out of that contribution. And that's irritating. And I don't even like Impact. And that was just rude.
I do. So, I like Impact. And the thing is, I agree with you. They got nothing out of that.
They didn't. It was awful. I was like, you really just had this AEW guy come over and take your belts and off of another AEW person. Like, it was awful.
It was. Sorry to interrupt you. Just was going to say, because Kenny was the one that won the belt, and you think, okay, when Impact win it back, they get to beat Kenny Omega. That's at least something for your brand. That would do something long term. They give it to Christian Cage. Like, what's he done since? He's done nothing since. And don't get me wrong, he's a great worker, Christian. Obviously, a former world champion in WWE as well. But like, it's just two different things altogether. Like, really, I mean, Rich Swann only finally got back in the main event past weekend in Impact. It's taken him 2 years to get there. It was really painful booking and painful stuff. So I'm sorry, a mini rant for Impact, support for Impact Wrestling there from me. I'll let you carry on.
Well, I was going to say, they had that title exchange, like Christian beating Kenny at Rampage in Pittsburgh. I witnessed that.
Yeah. Like,
you would think, oh, Impact title, Impact pay-per-view. No. So, yeah, I don't think Kenny's going. Jay White, possible. I don't know much about Jay White. I don't know a whole hell of a lot about New Japan and everything like that. But from what I've seen of Jay White, I mean, I could see either sides, him going to WWE, fresh start, maybe interacting with Finn Balor here and there, AJ, or AEW. He's already had the interactions with Adam Cole and the Bucks, and no, not Kenny because Kenny was injured. So all of that. So I could see both sides. It's just going to be a weird year to see where people go.
It's going to be a very weird year. I mean, we didn't expect to see half of these names being touted about, but it's a really interesting time, and contracts are coming up left, right, and center. And for the first time, we've seen everyone go from WWE to AEW. It can start going the other way. But I'm going to say NXT, I hope so. So I'm going to leave it just at hope so. Getcho in the house. Fantastic to see you all here. Hope you're doing well. Thank you for checking out the stream. I'm going to sort of go back to another one of Jones's questions there. He's actually asked, do we reckon that Eric Young has re-signed with WWE? Really liked his work and hope he gets a better booking this time. There was a few rumors sparking around after SmackDown this week that Eric Young might have been a part of the Firefly Funhouse with the Can You Keep a Secret game show thing as a narrative. Now, can't confirm or deny if that was the case. I had another listen to it, and the only word I could get out of it was when he really did the secret, because he's got a very sort of distinct voice, Eric Young. But if they covered up really, really well, and it is him, great job, WWE, because I can't 100% tell. But I'd love Eric Young to be back with WWE. He was killed off of Impact Wrestling from the design, literally killed off. Impact have got the most unique ways of taking people out of storylines. So, yeah, do you reckon there's a chance you can come back? And if so, would you be a fan of it?
Sure. I was never like the biggest Eric Young person, but he was the leader of Sanity. Nikki Cross is talking about she doesn't have any friends. We could see a reunion of Sanity of some sorts. Bring back Killian Dane. I have no idea where Alexander Wolf even is, so I don't even know if you could bring him back. But if you even if you just brought Eric Young back and kind of just a reason to give Nikki Cross to be crazy again, like crazier again, then we could get something out of Candice and Johnny versus Eric and Nikki. That's a possibility. With the Wyatt Six and everything, a lot of names that I keep seeing is Vincent and somebody else whose name I can't remember off the top of my tongue.
Dutch.
Yes. Again, more people I don't know much about, so I'm learning as I go. But a lot of people are speculating that they're going to be a part of the Wyatt Six aspect family in some way, shape, or form. They were seen at NXT tapings not that long ago. So, again, with the Wyatt Six stuff, it can go a multitude of ways. It's the multiverse at this point.
I like that comparison there. You see with your Marvels and stuff like that. Yeah, that could work really, really well. I like that. Also, like you said, the idea of Sanity and Alexander Wolf, because if Sanity come back and they'll put on the same brand as Imperium, maybe we could have a feud and we can have Alexander Wolf on a pole match just to see who wins custody of him, because he's been in both groups. Yeah. Or
Alexander Wolf in a shark cage.
There you go. Sorted. Booked. WWE, your ideas are here. That you don't need to go anywhere else for them. This is booked perfectly. Speaking of the White Six, do we see it as a stable or just 6 different characters of Bray?
I like the idea of both. I've toyed with the idea of it being both options. As a stable, I mean, you could have like an Abby the Witch, and then like all of them be their own person, but under the control of Bray. But it seems like they're kind of leaning more towards it being just 6 different characters of Bray, or there really were towards the beginning of this. I mean, Huskus, he was Husky Harris in NXT. Abby the Witch is the one I don't really understand, and I've tried to figure out and I can't. But Uncle Howdy being like the Fiend-esque one because there was no Fiend character. And it's so hard. See, that's the thing with Bray. It's so hard to figure everything out, but it's exciting to try and figure it out.
It is exciting to figure it out. I'm trying to think, because I think, like you said, I think it's Y6 as a stable myself, I would say. But like you said, the different characters there. He was Husky Harris as well. Eater of Worlds.
Eater of Worlds could be Mercy the Buzzard.
Yeah. So so then we got 4 then with this current Bray. And then he was Sister Abigail for a short time as 5. So I mean, there's only one more to go if there was the case. And wouldn't that be Harper? Interesting. If it's Uncle Harper, be the last one there. So that's a fascinating question, Jonesy. The answer is we don't know, but we're going with the White Six, but being a stable. But Silk says if Sami wins Money in the Bank and Roman is still champion at the time, would you play into the story from when Sami told Heyman that he would never cash in on Roman? Interesting question, this one.
I'm going to be honest, I completely forgot that conversation happened between Sami and Paul. But it sounds like something Paul Heyman would definitely say. See, I like the idea of the titles being split so we can utilize more people. So, like, having Cody decide, like, a week or two before Mania and be like, you know what? No. I don't want the Universal title. That has no significance to me. I just want the WWE title. Could be a way to split them up. It's probably not going to happen because I can't get everything I want out of this. And that's fine. That's the theme here. We can't get everything we want. But if Roman somehow is still a champion of sorts, I think you could have Sami cash in and maybe with the help of the Usos kind of mess up Roman and everything like that. It could be a way to continue it. I mean, we'll also have to see where the tag titles lie. There's a lot of what ifs leading up to this situation.
That's very true. Obviously, the tag team titles could be well in play. And I would not be surprised if one day we had Sami and Kevin go at odds once again, because they're frenemies, aren't they? Friends for life, but also they're destined to fight forever. And I'm not talking about an AEW video game when I say that. But at the same time, I mean, for me, I think I'd forgotten the conversation as well, but I would be totally up for that idea if they were going to do it. But of course, Sami did win Money in the Bank. Just cashing on Roman. If Roman was still the champion, it would be another one of those full circle moments. NXT also now mentioning about Eric Young doing the voiceover of Bray Wyatt's promo last week. Yeah, like we said, we felt like we heard, potentially may have heard something there, but it would be interesting to see if we learn more in future weeks with the Firefly Funhouse. Josie asking, who do you see joining Bray Wyatt's stable and why? I mean, we mentioned a few names there earlier, but I mean, who do you actually see joining? If it was, do you see the names you mentioned, or is there other people you'd have in mind?
So I definitely said Bo Dallas is definitely Uncle Howdy. There's no doubt about it at this point. Like, and if I'm wrong, this has been the biggest swerve of my life. It is keeping with like a somewhat creepy theme. You very well could bring up Joe Gacy from NXT and have him be one of the people in the stable. I'm not a big Joe Gacy guy. He kind of freaks me out. Not a big fan. Schism's not my favorite. Ava Raine is the star of that. That's a different story. At one point, people were like speculating heavily on who they thought the people in the crowd were when Bray returned. I saw a lot of people mention Grayson Waller as Mercy because like super skinny and stuff like that. I thought it'd be cool if it was like Dexter Lumis.
Dexter would be cool.
Dexter, I love Dexter. Just the no talking, the hatchet holding, great. I love it. It's hard to, again, how do you go about it? Do you go about people who have a history with Bray and that's why they're in this stable? Or do you kind of just go with the creepier characters and be like, oh no, I think this could be an interesting person to put in there, and then have a reason and explain it after the fact? For sure, Bo Dallas. I'll say that.
Yeah. I mean, for me, I agree with you. I think Bo is definitely a part of it. I'm going to Bo leave it now till the end. Like I said, biggest swerve if it's not, and we're not talking about Strickland. For the rest of the group, I mean, yeah, I feel like Vincent and Dutch, if they believe they've been signed at this point, it just seems to make sense. And I've seen a bit of Vincent's work from Impact Wrestling and Ring of Honor, and the dude is creepy, with the dreadlocks on his hair, and he just goes like, dig what I'm saying, man. He's just got this really weird look in his eyes. So I think he's just a natural fit for this group. I'm not as familiar with Dutch, despite watching some Ring of Honor. It was not so much of him that I would watch at the time. But to go over to honest, Joe Gacy, like you said, makes sense of one of them. I think Eric Young, if he is re-signed, would be a good fit if he's not a part of Sanity. But obviously a female member, it feels like Alexa Bliss is going to be the one back in there. At least it seems interesting this time around for me. I wasn't so much invested last time. I think less of a Lily Doll, more of like the Bliss here, but just actually twisted Bliss in the mindset for me works a lot better for it. But because I don't think Nikki Cross fits it now. And as much as fun I think Liv Morgan could be a part of this group, Alexa has the history. So I guess like I said, you can have the conflict, but perhaps they realize that they work better together. And maybe after all, even if they have conflict, if they're not the ones that are actually controlling the narrative, I'm not talking about EC3 here, we can have where they actually realize that they have to work together for this, even if they don't want to.
Yeah, I mean, at that point, you could say the entire time Uncle Howdy's been the one pulling the strings, and that's why Alexa turned on the Fiend at WrestleMania. There you go. There's your reasoning.
There you go. Long time storytelling.
Long-term storytelling.
Absolutely. We're going back 3 or 4 WrestleManias there just to get that payoff. Silk says Brock will be one of Gunther's challenges when Gunther wins the world title. I agree that a world title is definitely Gunther's future. How soon do you reckon it could be?
I would say, if not next year, then 2 years. I definitely don't think it'd be this year because there's still the possibility of Roman still being around and all of this. And Gunther needs to surpass the Honky Tonks reign. So I need Gunther to be IC champ as long as possible. So, however long that's going to take. So until after that reign is done, then he can go on to bigger and better things.
Absolutely. Well, thankfully, I believe the Honky Tonks reign is 400 and something, like 485 days or something along that line. I don't know exactly, but it's under 500 for sure. So Gunther would only need to hold it until probably around SummerSlam to break that record. So it's not going to hold it at least for 3 years or anything like that. But
Good.
Certainly. But yeah, and he's also beat the Mounties record as well of 1 day of being the shortest. Silk says that he agrees with you, and they should have just had Cody challenge for the WWE title at Mania. So it's good to see a bit of support there going there. And also, Ghost Spider 2003, Damage Control is boring. They should break up after WrestleMania. What's your thoughts first off on Damage Control?
I wish. So when they first came back at SummerSlam, I was in tears because I was like, I didn't expect Bayley to be back already. Dakota wasn't with the company anymore, and Io's name was kind of just in the air. So when it was just boom, 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 I was like, this is a fantastic idea. We don't have a lot of female stables in WWE at all, and every time there is one, they break them up. Toxic Attraction, still upset, whatever. But they definitely haven't utilized them to their fullest potential, especially with Bayley, the leader, taking L after L after L. Didn't help. And yes, Damage Control is the longest reigning, I believe, maybe. It's close. WWE Women's Tag Team Champions. They aren't doing anything with them. They haven't defended them. Yeah, they're defending them tonight, but don't have them lose it right before Mania. You know, it's weird. I really just think they could be utilized better and like stronger than they have been.
I completely agree. I feel that they had so much potential as a trio, and I don't think they've been booked to that potential, especially the feud with Bianca Belair, I think harmed them going all the way through. Didn't even win War Games, didn't even win the last one when they had the backup, even with Rhea Ripley involved there. So it just felt a bit of a flat finish with that. And I'm pleased that they're Women's Tag Team Champions, but Lisa, next question. What happens tonight? Are Becky and Lita taking it home or Damage Control keeping those championships? I mean, Ronda and Shayna are waiting in the wings, it feels, and Bayley has started a bit of smack talk on Twitter.
Like I said, I don't think, as much as I love Becky and Lita has been my go-to girl since I can remember, and she can still go, I don't think they take the titles. You know, everyone keeps bringing up Trish and Trish coming back and turning her back on Lita and Becky and costing them, and that I was like, I don't know where you're getting all of this information from, but okay. I don't believe that will happen, and I also don't think you need to involve Trish in this. I just had this discussion on Friday. Everywhere Lita goes, Trish does not need to go too. I love Team Bestie. I love them together and everything, but when Trish came back to face Charlotte, Lita wasn't there. Like, they don't have to, like, every time Lita's mentioned, everyone just throws Trish's name involved. And again, that's fine, but they are separate people who have very separate careers that have intertwined quite a bit, but they are very different. So I don't think they win them tonight. It could be just because Bayley cost them, and then we get like a triple threat tag thing at Mania, maybe like Becky, Lita, Damage Control, Ronda, Shayna. That's a possibility. And then Bayley can get a one-on-one with whoever she wants at WrestleMania. At this point, I don't know what to do with Bayley.
It's getting hard actually to figure out if it's not Becky versus Bayley, then what to do at this point. I mean, Bayley versus Trish could have actually been something that could work as well. But yeah, I mean, there's been so many different rumors with Trish about like if she would come in and the creative plans changed and she was supposed to come in at a different point as well and sent home last week. Heel turns, like you said, it's so much on the gossip side backstage with that, but we don't know what's going on until we see it. It's hard really to say, really. So for me personally, I'm just like, I'll wait and see how that plays out to judge it when I see it on screen. If any of that happens, then okay, fair enough. I'll judge it when I see it. But for me, I'm not sure. Like yourself, I don't know if I buy it, to be honest. And hey, I could be eating my words in about 4 hours' time. But at this particular moment, I'm not going to buy it. I'm not buying that ticket. Silk says, if you brought Sanity back, it really would get Nikki's character in some direction again. Big Dama, Alexander Wolf have recently been tagging again on the indies. There we go, something we didn't know there. So Alexander Wolf, we don't need to put out the milk cartons. We found him.
We found him, guys. It's okay. I know everyone was worried. Yeah, I mean, now I think what Nikki's doing right now, it could be one of two things. She went crazy again because she became a superhero. No one was buying it, even though she was Raw Women's Champion. There was no one really behind her, and she is a former tag team champion. And that could be why she went crazy. It's also the possibility where she told Candice, "I don't have any friends." That very well could be a ploy to get Candice vulnerable. And again, I don't know how this is going to fully play out. If this is the way they go, that is how they bring back Sanity and just kind of beat down Johnny and beat down Dexter and Candice and everything like that, so that we get that type of feud. It's difficult to figure out what's going on with Nikki.
It is difficult, but I like your idea of storytelling there. I think that definitely could play out. It gives a lot of people something to do as well, because Dexter and Johnny are lacking a bit of direction as well. Like you say, we've got that interaction with Candice backstage with Nikki, so I quite like that. I think that could be a really fun idea. So yeah, I'm with you on that one, 100%.
WWE, I'm just a call away. Oh, I gotta tell you.
Young Kings Wrestling in the house is Victoria for Hall of Fame. Absolutely, would love to see that.
That's their narrative. It's also mine. We have been pushing very hard for Victoria in the Hall of Fame this year, seeing as how we are less than 40 days away and still no inductees have been announced.
None yet. Interesting, isn't it? Maybe we'll get one announced very, very shortly. But wherever that petition is, give it to me. I'll sign it. I will happily sign it. We get another name on there. Ghost Spider 2003 says, my opinion, the Intercontinental Championship and United States Championship should be defended at premium live events at the same night. So obviously WrestleMania, I suppose, could be the one exception to that rule, but otherwise I'm kind of agreeing with that. They have a prominent role, these championships, and they should be defended.
So this kind of brings it back to the lack of a brand split. Again, these are big ifs I'm shooting here. If you bring back the brand split and utilize it correctly, and maybe give us like 1 or 2 Raw pay-per-views, 1 or 2 SmackDown pay-per-views, PLEs. I still call them pay-per-views. It's just easier. And then we get them, like, everyone comes together, Mania, SummerSlam, Rumble, Survivor Series, da-da-da-da-da. And that way we do get the U.S. title being defended on at least 2 pay-per-views a year, and we get the IC title defended on at least 2 pay-per-views a year. And when there is the combinations, hell yeah, have them both defended. They just have not, well, recently with Gunther, they're putting more respect on it, but it took so long for them to put more respect on these mid-card titles, which have been defended more than the other titles, because Roman. So they really just need to utilize them, because your mid-cards are stacked. I mean, we saw everyone in the Elimination Chamber for the U.S. title. Montez Ford is a star. Give that man every title right now. And just like Seth, Johnny, I mean, even Bronson Reed, like you're building up this mid card, and people in SmackDown are there. They just don't get utilized. It's just hard. And then you have like Sheamus and Drew, who are main eventers, kind of bringing themselves back down into the mid card because they already had their shot at Roman and missed. So just utilize the mid card more. That's all I need.
Yeah, absolutely. Well, like you said, the championships have definitely been in a much stronger position than what they were, say, a year ago. Triple H has definitely given their TV time, their importance, video packages, incredible champions as well. I think we could definitely say Gunther's done well. Austin Theory, Seth Rollins, Bobby Lashley holding the US title on Monday Night Raw as well. So it's definitely been doing pretty well with those championships. To have them both on, if you keep it, 12 months a year with the shows as they are, I would definitely like to see them both on the same night. Obviously, there's only so many matches, so much time, so many superstars. With WrestleMania this year, there's rumors going around today, a number of superstars. I'm happy they're potentially going to be left off the card, but the rosters are that stacked, aren't they? It's hard to really... it's hard, isn't it, to get everybody on the card? I mean, we can't have 50 matches on the card, even for 2 nights. We don't. That's why we got 2 nights. We didn't want 7-hour shows anymore.
Yeah, and the people, I get that people aren't happy. I mean, we used to have the Under the Giant Memorial Battle Royals, but now they always do those on SmackDown. Which, yeah, you can say WrestleMania SmackDown, but it's not WrestleMania. Like, it's not the same thing. And they got rid of the women's battle royal. They did like twice. That was a good way to utilize the majority of your talents. I've been saying bring back a ladder match for one of the mid-card titles. That way you get 7-8 guys in a match right there. Hell, do one for like the women's tag titles. Do something. I don't even care.
Just give us a ladder match. That's all we want here. Get people on the card. Would you bring back the battle royals for the kickoff show? One each night.
You could do that too. That's one way to do it. I always forget the kickoff shows were like a thing because it's recently just been them talking, and I feel like they really haven't had like matches on the kickoff recently. Or if they do, I've just nothing.
No, they haven't for a long. The only one that I can remember in the last sort of like, I want to say like 8 or 9 months, it's Clash of the Castle, and that was only announced like during the kickoff. Like, oh, now we're gonna have a match. It's like, oh, okay, right, okay, we would need to go and watch this. So, yeah, that's the only one I remember recently. Even like WrestleMania last year didn't have any kickoff matches. So, in a way, it's better because I'm not really a big fan of the kickoff shows anyway. I don't need to hear people, 50-50 booking their predictions on a show that they probably know the outcome of already. So for me, I'm not as invested on kickoff shows, but
yeah. Especially the kickoff panel. I just don't like Jerry Lawler, and he's always there.
Yeah.
It's unfortunate.
Yeah. Well, I mean, obviously, hopefully he's okay, but I know what you're saying. He's, how can we put it? His time is not there now, is it, to sort of like be on the commentary table anymore? Obviously, I've been watching a bit of the Attitude Era recently, and I still wonder to this day how they get away with half that stuff then, let alone now. It's a completely 2 different worlds when you watch pro wrestling from then to now.
Yeah, it's Jerry Lawler. Yeah, I mean, I hope he's okay and everything. And they say he's okay, but you can just keep him away from all things WWE. I'll be okay with that.
Yeah, panels,
everything. Keep him away from
it. We've got Jonesy. We get some of Jones's early questions that we didn't get to, and then whatever's left at the bottom, we'll go through those and we'll wrap things up in the next 10 to 15 minutes, guys and girls. So Jones said, "What's the problem with AEW these days? We've got Revolution this weekend. Should Tony Khan make amends with CM Punk and bring in Mercedes Moné?" So 2 big names there he's mentioned. First off, CM Punk. This certainly is. It's something that could bring a bit of drama either way if Punk was to come in or not. But do you think Tony Khan needs to bring him back?
Personally, no. I think AEW is fine without Phil. And I love CM Punk. I remember being in Vegas because I was there for SummerSlam and watching my laptop for Rampage, seeing CM Punk return, and I was like, "Oh my god, it's CM Punk!" And it was an awesome moment. But he wasn't in AEW very long, was champion, got injured, didn't do anything with the title. He was just a body at that point. He wasn't really doing anything. Yeah, we got the feud with him and MJF, which was fantastic, but that was really it. And then there was the brawl out for All Out, and the doors getting kicked in, dogs getting kicked, people biting people. I would have loved to just be backstage and just watch all of that chaos happen. To be a fly on the wall just one time, it'd be that.
But I would agree with you. That would be a thing to watch.
Yeah, it's one of those things where it's like a damned if you do, damned if you don't. You bring back CM Punk, you utilize FTR and kind of do that like they've been teasing, and I believe Dax has been pushing for them to be all right, everyone just make amends and we'll bring him, we should just bring him back. And then if you don't bring him back, people get mad. It's full circle. It's literally always the you can't please everybody situation. And it really just depends on, A, does CM Punk even want to come back to that type of environment where he's majority not wanted? And does Tony Khan want to deal with that again?
It's a true story. It's a true story. It's like you said, it's damned if you do, damned if you don't. For me personally, I think that I just like the idea, if they can kind of patch things up and make a storyline match of Kenny Omega versus CM Punk, a match we should have got when Punk came back. Obviously, we didn't get it because Kenny Omega was away as well for a long time as well. I think that would gather a lot of interest. Like, I think AEW, I don't see a problem with AEW, but I think it's missing. I mean, it's got some okay storylines. I'm actually really enjoying it. MJF Bryan Danielson at the moment. I think the main event storyline is going to be a lot of fun this weekend. But I think it's missing something that'll bring in casuals, something that'll bring in like the other people. You know, when it's dipping under that 1 million mark. If CM Punk versus Kenny Omega was announced for a match, say at Double or Nothing, All Out, you know, one of those shows, I'm pretty sure that that's going to go back into the 1.2, 1.3 market again, because I think that people really want to see it. It's AEW's version of doing Hogan versus Flair when Hogan went to WCW. Do you know what I mean? It's that kind of level of what they can do. It's whether they are able to do it or not. And of course, like you said, they're utilizing FTR. Do you want to do a trios match with the Young Bucks in there as well? Like, there's so many different ideas you can actually do with it. It's just a case of will it or won't it? I mean, like I said, CM Punk, to understand, he probably doesn't want to come back. Is it worth the trouble? Probably not. But if you can print some money, then I might be okay with it. So, well, I'm not going to be okay with it. I think Tony will be okay with it. I'm not getting nothing out of it. But hell, there you are. What about Mercedes Moné?
I love what Mercedes is doing right now in New Japan, utilizing that is a big name that brought in a shit ton of people for Battle in the Valley. And even though that wasn't the main event, it was the main event in everyone's mind, was her and Katie, which rightfully so. I didn't watch the match. I have seen bits and pieces of it. It was really good. I don't think Tony needs to necessarily sign Mercedes and bring her in. What you could do is Forbidden Door 2, which has been highly teased. You give us Mercedes Moné versus Jamie Hayter or Hikaru Shida or whoever the women's champion is at the time. I would love to see Jamie Hayter and Mercedes because I love Jamie Hayter.
She's awesome.
Oh, she's so good. I love her. So it's really going to just depend, but I think that's how Tony Khan should utilize Mercedes. Like, don't sign her. Let her go to Japan. Let her just have fun. She's not technically signed to a contract anywhere right now. She's free to go wherever she pleases. And allow that for her. She's been stuck under a contract since 2012. Give her space and just let her roam free. And I know AW people have the ability to go other places, but they limited where they could go and stuff like that recently. So I think that's how Tony Khan should utilize Mercedes.
I think that's always going to be an out as well. I agree with you. I think Mercedes is all about her at the minute. She's about building her brand and delivering her message of what she wants to do. And it feels like she wants to put women's wrestling on the map, not just like she did for WWE. She wants to do it in other places. She's already done it for New Japan, establishing that division, establishing the IWGP Women's World Championship. Stardom wrestlers she wants to compete against as well, which I think will be fascinating. I'm not a big follower of Stardom, but certainly will make an effort to go and learn a bit more. I hear some fantastic things from there. She's teased an idea of a match against Mickie James, who's currently the Knockouts champion. New Japan versus Impact is happening Multiverse United WrestleMania weekend. That could happen at that place there. I wouldn't be surprised. So Forbidden Door makes a lot of sense. The only thing I would say is with Forbidden Door, what if Saraya was the champion? Of course, there's a lot of history with them too. That could get a lot of people talking, but certainly could be something they would want to patch up as well. Who knows?
So I think Saraya has gone on record and saying her and Sasha Mercedes have talked about it, about everything. Because stuff happens in the ring, and it definitely wasn't Mercedes formerly known as Sasha's intentions to hurt Paige, formerly known as, yeah. So all of that, all of the names. So it definitely like wasn't her intention to do that. And if they did bury the hatchet, awesome. If Saraya is world champion, which I don't necessarily think she needs to be, and like I don't think she needs to win on Sunday. So yeah, Sunday. Jesus, I'm used to pay-per-views being on Saturday.
It was a trend for a while. Saturdays, now it's been on Sundays, but no, exactly. But we'll see how it play out. But yeah, we feel that should AEW try and do it? I mean, it might be, of course, Tony should try and get the biggest names possible, but would he be able to? That's a different question altogether.
Yeah.
And one of other Jones's questions, we can get back to the bottom then for the people who put questions in, then we'll wrap the stream up. I'm going to give us a 10-minute warning. So that's literally it, 10 minutes to get through these last questions. So we'll try and get through them sharply for you so we can get everyone on. Jonesy says, what happened to Miro? What would his trajectory be in AEW had he not disappeared? I think he would have been a main eventer by now. I think he could have been in the world champion conversation.
Oh, 100%. I know he was injured, so that's why he was off TV for a while. Came back, they didn't really utilize him, and then he's just been off TV. Definitely could see Miro in that contention for the big belt. And again, what could have happened if Punk didn't leave and MJF and Ma? There's too many what ifs in that situation. But Miro's a star and deserves to be treated as such.
Absolutely. If he's not going to hit in AEW, then please come back to WWE.
Go somewhere.
I always love the Rusev Day. How would you build Bray Wyatt versus Bobby Lashley match if it indeed happens at WrestleMania, including Uncle Howdy? I think earlier on we suggested the idea of Wyatt 6 versus the Hurt Business. That's the best way to go.
Yeah, and even in some aspect, like even if it is just Bray and Bobby, but having Hurt Business mess around throughout, like before Mania and the Wyatt 6. I mean, because they already like teased it in that promo with the Funhouse on SmackDown. So
absolutely, and maybe there's a secret in mind there that we don't know about to do with Bobby and Ashley. Who knows? Maybe. We'll have to wait and see. We'll see if we can keep that secret. Eric Douglas, thank you for checking us out. Hope you're doing well. So Sami in the Bank, please. So Sami, if not a main event of WrestleMania, certainly Sami for Money in the Bank seems to be a popular choice today. Silk says, so I found out today the old WWF European Championship was around for less time than the NXT UK Championship. What makes a title more memorable in your opinion? Interesting. So NXT UK Championship or the WWF European Championship? I suppose the big question here is, what one comes to your mind first? What has the more prestige in your mind? What stands out more?
So I don't remember much about the European Championship because I am younger. So that was like right as like I kind of started watching wrestling. So I don't have much memory about that. So the UK Championship is more fresh in my mind. And the names that have held that have been ridiculous, like Bate, Walter, Dragunov, and those are 3 huge names right off the bat. So as me in this current moment, without really thinking about it, NXT UK, just because I don't remember much about the European title.
To be fair, I think you make a fantastic argument. I mean, I had Pete Dunne to that list as well. I mean, unbelievable. All of them had fantastic reigns as the NXT UK champion. The championship was treated for that brand with absolute prestige, and you couldn't just be anyone to go and win that championship, where with the WWF European Championship it could have been like a hot potato championship. It went round to round, but it had great people holding it as well. William Regal, D'Lo Brown were the ones that held it probably most often, but had the likes of a Chris Jericho holding that championship. A Kurt Angle once held that championship. So in some cases, you look at it and say, well, they're 2 of the biggest names of all time. It was on the main stage of WWE programming rather than being a brand to the side. So in a way, the European Championship should be the one that's more memorable. But if we're going for prestige, I would say the NXT UK Championship. But I suppose as an answer, I'll go with the European Championship just because of the fact that it was in the mainstay and the probably biggest rating of WWE time period.
Yeah.
Eric Douglas says, Liv should be on the show. Put it with Raquel in the tag team match. I believe in for WrestleMania, we're discussing people being involved there. Would you not do that?
I'm not the biggest fan of Raquel in general, and they like kind of teased her and Liv as a tag team before, but I'm not the biggest fan of just like throwing together tag teams everywhere. I mean, Ronda and Shayna makes sense because the history of the 4 horsewomen of the MMA, and like Dakota and Io, the same faction. So I don't think so, and I think Liv is better as a single star, even though I loved Liv for Brutality.
Yeah, that was awesome. Yeah, that was awesome for that short period. They're facing each other on SmackDown this upcoming week. Should be fun.
I'm
Little
so
throwback
excited.
as well for them too. For me, I'm okay because it gets them on the card, and I do feel that I feel Liv Morgan deserves a WrestleMania match in some format. I just don't know where it's going to come if it's not in this tag team match at this moment. But we'll have to wait and see how it will play out. But Eric, thank you for the suggestion. And so clarifying, NXT, there hasn't been a kickoff match since Clash of the Castle. So that's the last time we had one. So thank you for clarifying that for us. So we're not missing anything if we don't watch the kickoff shows. Ghost Spider 2003. Personally, I want to see Sheamus dethrone Gunther for the Intercontinental Championship at WrestleMania. Interesting theory. He would become a Grand Slam champion if he was to do so. For me, I'd be down for that only if Drew is also in the match, because then Gunther hasn't got to take the pinfall, and that way Gunther can move onwards and upwards to the world title scene. But that's just my take on it. But you said you want Gunther to retain at WrestleMania, don't you?
Yes. Gunther for champion forever.
Absolutely.
Have just as long a title reign as Roman Reigns for the IC title.
To be found down, I'm not bored of it. I'm not bored of that IC title reign whatsoever, so I wouldn't complain if he kept it. Ghost Spider 2003, after WrestleMania, Ilya Dragunov should get a call up to the main roster and feud with Gunther. Don't tease us, Ghost Spider. This is something that we really, really want.
Yeah, I mean, Gunther and Dragunov have such a good match history. That'd be fun. No, don't tease me with it, because it's probably not going to happen. So don't tease me.
If we all sign a petition, just like we did with Victoria for the Hall of Fame, there could be a chance, right? There could be a chance. Let's hope.
Start the hashtag.
Start the hashtag. Let's get on Twitter. We can all make it work together. And to Ghost Spider 2003, I think Johnny Gargano should dethrone Austin Theory for the United States Championship. And that wouldn't be a bad shout if it was to happen. Obviously, it feels like Theory and Cena. Could that be? I don't know if we can see that 100% yet for WrestleMania, but isn't John Cena back next week on Raw?
Yes, because they're in Boston next week.
Okay.
So it only makes sense that Cena's there. I'm one of those people where if not a full-time competitor is involved, don't involve the title. And like that's coming from me, and I absolutely love John Cena. Like that's my GOAT. People talk about their personal goats. HBK is usually someone people say. John Cena's mine. Yeah. So I love John Cena. His U.S. Open title challenges were awesome. I mean, we got to see KO, Sammy, Cesaro. They were great. I just don't want the U.S. title involved. So I thought it would have been perfect if, say, Montez Ford won the Chamber and won the U.S. title, and then Austin Theory tried to get it back. We'll say next Monday, for example, just to play out my narrative here. And Cena comes out, or Cena's just there and Austin Theory knows and gets distracted and loses. So then we still get Theory, Cena at Mania, and then we can have Montez Ford and Johnny in a banger of a match at Mania for the championship.
I mean, I wouldn't be against it. I think it would be a really, really cool idea. I mean, obviously, Theory has experimented with the open challenge. It would only make sense to build a match if Theory did that and then Cena cost him the match, and then all of a sudden you have that grudge match for WrestleMania. Tom Cody also gave an idea the other day on his channel, which I loved, by the way, was we've seen these teasers for all these WrestleMania Goes Hollywood and stuff like that with these classic movies. We've seen Seth being, doing the Joker. Whoever did that idea deserves a raise instantly. That was fantastic. But to see perhaps Austin Theory on Raw portray the Marine John Cena, I think could be quite a fun idea between now and WrestleMania. That was Tom's suggestion. I'm going to give him the full credit for that, because when I heard it, I was like, that's good. That's good.
That'd be so funny. Oh, I'd pay to see that. I'm down.
I'm down for that as well, absolutely. And speaking of Tom Cody, he is live right now doing spoiler warning on his channel. So if once you come off of this, just type in Tom Cody in the search engine and go to watch spoiler warning. He'll be there for you. But before I do leave, I want to say a big thank you to everyone that has watched this video. If you're watching on delay as well, thank you for watching and sticking with us as well. If you've enjoyed the video, then please hit the like button, subscribe to the channel as well if you're new here, and also share with friends. Sharing is caring, helps grow the channel, and also can help Elite Showcase as well, a fantastic channel on YouTube. And I've got to say, love your content you do each and every week. For those that were not here at the start, please remind everyone where they can follow you and a bit of your content once again.
Yeah, again, thank you so much for having me on. We got to turn the tables this time, so you got to ask me questions for the whole time. But yeah, you can follow me on Twitter at Katie Wrasslin 13. The link tree in my bio to get everything She Elite Showcase. So we stream twitch.tv/She Elite Showcase every Thursday around 6 p.m. Eastern. YouTube.com/She Elite Showcase is where you can find all the video forms of everything, the weekly show, the interview series I do, which Steve has so graciously been a part of. It's called Inside the Mind of. I have a bunch of different podcasters up there. You can go check all of those out. If you want to listen to everything, it's Anchor, Spotify, Google Podcasts, or Apple Podcasts. Yeah, I mean, it's just a weekly show mainly talking about news and rumors, today in women's wrestling history. And then I always have to come up with some type of creative question to engage the people. Like the most popular one from last year was wrestlers as candies.
Oh, okay.
So the chat kind of went wild with that one. And I just did one about if wrestlers had their own Girl Scout cookie. So but then there's like normal ones, like for this week, since Revolution's on Sunday, I have a lot of like Revolution styled questions, like will it go over or under 4 hours, which it's gonna go over. Spoiler, it's probably going over. The main event's an hour long Iron Man match, and just stuff like that. So I always try and do something related to, like, if a pay-per-view is coming up or something big like Rumble, Chamber, etc., etc.
Sounds good. It's just awesome content all round. Like I can say wholeheartedly, if you're not subscribed to Katie's channel, then what are you doing? Don't waste any more time here. Go to the description of the video and make sure to give her a subscribe and check out some awesome content over there. Like I say, I was on there for Inside the Mind earlier this month, so that's definitely one that you can always start off with and check out the weekly show as well. But that's all from us anyway. Thank you all for watching. I'm off now to go and eat some of my favorite candy bars and compare them to wrestlers, because I couldn't think of one instantly off the top of my head as desperately as I wanted to. But that's all from us anyway. Katie, thank you so much for coming on. It's been a pleasure having you on. Hope to have you on again in the future. Look after yourselves and each other. Enjoy Raw tonight, and be back later in the week. AEW Revolution predictions will be on the channel. Myself and NXT will be here. The link is already there, so I believe the timing will be 10:30 p.m. UK time, which will be 5:30 p.m. Eastern. Look after yourselves and each other. See you then. Take care. Have yourselves a great day.